Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, with a topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Hello, everyone, and welcome. If you got this subscribed to my podcast there, and you're sitting there listening to it in your spare time, sounds absolutely amazing to me. But, aside from the life processes we go through in demands of life to work, make money, and everything else, we put demands on ourselves, mainly the guy, went during sex to have that most fulfilling orgasm, and possibly a long one at that. Unfortunately, women have more than you do, and we don't need a break in between. However, nonetheless, yours is surely welcomed and fun to watch. Haha. But when it comes to the female orgasm, some guys try and get you to squirt. The squirting orgasm. Interesting. This is what we're going to talk about. Exactly what it is, and things like that. Everything associated with the squirting orgasm. Hopefully I will hit everything. If I don't, let me know. But let's get this show on the road. Now, what is a squirting orgasm? Most women, we don't need to explain this. But we're going to do it here. Squirting orgasm, or the squirting portion in the orgasm, refers to like that fluid expelled from the vagina during orgasm. Now, just because one woman does it doesn't mean that they all do it. It is something, I don't know, maybe it just came natural in response to that female's first encounter and that all somatic big time orgasm in there. Heaven only knows. But not everybody has them. So, however, those that do, believe it or not, as much as you like to believe, it is orgasmic climax juices. You may not, a female that may not squirt all the time. They may just squirt every so often. Maybe you're not getting them off hard enough for them to do it. But, if you've been with somebody who does it and you know just how to hit their buttons, then you don't have a problem. The only problem you're going to have if the two of you are at odds, but you're having sex and she's just not feeling up to it. Heaven only knows. With this type of orgasm, though, it includes a rapid ejaculation of urine from the bladder, not so much juices from the vagina, although those are mixed in there. Remember, we are very closely jointed to the urethra in our vagina. And that is why, just to let you guys know this, why we probably get urinary tract infection more than you do. It's just how we are built. Don't use your saliva to lubricate. It makes it the odds of getting one that much more fruitile. Well, not even fruitile. Even it's much more abundant, I guess, that a female will get a UTI. And that can be transferred to you, whether you like to hear that or not. And you guys seem to flip out if you get some little infection from a woman. Even if it is a urinary tract infection, your body gets them. You're just built differently than the woman, so unfortunately you don't get them as frequent. Another thing you guys can get too, which you probably don't think you can, is a yeast infection. And that can go either way. You can have a yeast infection and give it to the female, or the female, your partner, will have a yeast infection, which is more common in women, obviously, and give it to you. And female may not even know they have it. And that also goes to the UTI. So don't think that you're infallible. But also, squirting involves like secretions from the skene, skene gland. All right, this gland, which is also sometimes called the female prostate, and the reason why is because they kind of sort of function similarly to the male prostate. Obviously, if you massage the male prostate, it is a turn on because a lot of the nerves are right there and you're massaging it, gets them off. There are others that you go anywhere near their anus, they're like, I don't think so. But nowadays, sex is a little bit more open. So, there are some other names for the squirting orgasm. Female ejaculation. Duh. This term actually excludes, believe it or not, non-binary and trans people who are not female, but have vaginas. But it does exclude it, so sorry it had to be said. Now, it was funny because these names came from people who were involved in a study which actually studied the difference between squirting, female ejaculation, and incontinence during sex, and how the word squirting, orgasm, just kind of sort of, or squirting in general, happens to blanket all of those words and names. So, and this is like in everyday language, because this usually what the humans do, our lovely human selves and human nature, we have a tendency not to really explain things or differentiate. We kind of sort of blanket some things all together, and that's just not sexually. That's in other facets of life as well. And it's human nature. We all do it. Now, what is the difference between squirting orgasm, female ejaculation, and sexual incontinence? Most people, the last one, you just know what it is. The incontinence part actually just stands out. Now, believe it or not, all three of these are phenomena. And obviously, they include fluid coming from the bladder during sex. All of them do. Again, you may think that it's coming from the other way, but it is not. So if you're into feeling skeeved out by just using the words golden shower, but yet you enjoy watching your partner squirt, during an orgasm, you're getting a golden shower. Never, any way you want to look at it. It obviously, or it is, shall we say, the expulsion of urine during an orgasm. Well, now remember how females built. All our muscles and our pelvic floor muscles and all those good things, especially if they're all in shape, your bladder muscles, your stomach, your abdominal muscles, all of those tense up during an orgasm. Obviously, they're going to push on everything down below. This is why you kind of sort of get, it's more with females than with men. Because we're inside as opposed to outside. More nerves down there for us. So, and when we are talking about female ejaculation, it is actually, this one is probably the closest to having those vaginal juices coming out. And this is where, like, the female ejaculation is basically a release of both urine and a substance from the skin glands. So you're getting a little mixture in there, but you are still getting the golden shower. But if you want to feel as though you have, obviously just had this explosive, or you got your partner to squirt, you're kind of using that term a little freely, shall we say. So you might want to look into it beforehand. Although it is good to urinate before and after sex, which helps with reducing the bacteria that will get into our vagina. Also into, into the penis and into the bladder and all that good stuff, and which causes those lovely UTIs. But when it comes from, sexual incontinence, which is also, believe it or not, called coital incontinence. And this is where someone loses control of bladder during sex. We all know what incontinence generally means, so explanation of that does not need to be said. Now, we are talking about the lovely climax, orgasm, and all that good stuff. So, obviously, the ejaculation in females, those lovely individuals with vaginas, it actually may include, not so much may include, but it should include a small release of like that milky white liquid. And that does not gush out, but it is there. So, when you come to squirting, there's usually a higher volume of it. And it is, possible to, like I said, work together. So when you are actually squirting the urine during ejaculation, you will get some of the female cum, if you want to call it. I'll get right down to the nitty-gritties. There are, with everything that comes with sex and everything that we do in our lives, basically, those myths and conceptions. Why not have them hear about squirting orgasms? The myth, squirting is fake? Well, that's a myth. Because squirting is real. Believe it or not, it has been documented, but I think everybody knows that. I don't think I need to tell you that. If you are getting your partner to do it, you already know. Obviously, scientists are curious and want to know more about it, so there is a lot of research that is needed, basically, to determine the exact causes of the squirting and the female ejaculation. They know it's urine, they know it comes that way, but at the same time, females also excrete, the other fluid along with it. So they're trying to figure out where the heck it all comes from. But hey, there's a part of it is like it's ambiguous that about squirting is that these glands, these lovely skin glands, they vary from person to person. So they're believing that this is the reason why one female would do it while the other would not. They're obviously out there joking on something. Yeah, you're determined and you to activate it. Myth number 2 when it comes to squirting is everyone can squirt if they try the smell for different people, different females. There are those females who can do it more than others. There are ones that can't do it at all. But there are a lot of different methods out there that can do it. You might do it the first time one way and it happens, and then you're going to try something else to do it, and it didn't work. You kind of sort of got to play around with it. Different ways of getting your woman to squirt, or your partner, at least during the female ejaculation. So remember that as well. Now, on that note, we are going to take our first break in the show. When I come back, I will continue with our discussion on the squirting orgasm. So please get a drink, get a snack, come back, get relaxed, get yourself ready. And I will meet you back here after the break for more Sex Talk with Andra.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Hello and welcome back. We are talking about squirting orgasms. This is for the female, absolutely. And went through a couple of things on, what their name is, but, generally when you get in there, there is just one blanket name and task that your partner goes for is to get you to squirt. At least some little small trickle or a stream of fluid. So, just remember that. Obviously, everybody's depiction of squirting that is shown in porn movies often shows that really large gush of squirting liquid. Well, let me tell you something. Porn producers fake some of those depictions. Come on, they work into the movies. They want to get you to listen. They want to get you off. They want you to buy their product. So it is for that dramatic effect, obviously. All volumes and forms of squirting are valid, though. Squirting at different volumes is a normal occurrence. And this is generally during sex for, many people. So, another myth that comes along with the squirting orgasm. Squirting or ejaculation only happens during an orgasm. Oh, is that so wrong? Some people can, squirt, ejaculate, either or, before or after the orgasm. Hey, check the women. You can orgasm well more. We have several, so it's obviously guys are sometimes jealous, but hey, who's to say? But women can have multiple orgasms, and generally that is the goal of the partner, to get you to do that. Another bit in with this myth is that squirting can also occur at the same time as an orgasm. And some people, like I said, have multiple spurts of squirting spread over a few minutes. So they can hold it out. And if you're in total control of your muscles, especially your abdominal muscles, your pelvic wall muscles, you can make that work for you. Trust me. Now, how do you explore squirting? You could obviously do it by yourself, because that's always a good way to find out what is going to get you off and do it. So that you can actually teach your partner or that person that you're with what you like in the bedroom, especially if you like to squirt. Or, from time to time, after you figured it out for yourself, you and your partner can play around and basically, add it right on in there. That goal to try different ways to get you to squirt during sex. Hey, it's usually recommended, which is not something that needs to be taught if you are very sexually active and know what you're doing. That's stimulating the G-spot to achieve a squirting orgasm. So, what are you trying to hit anyway? The G-spot. When you know or need to be educated upon the A-spot and the O-spot. Come on, there are other different spots to hit. And you really, again, by yourself, or, if you and your partner want to play around with the sex toys and the fingers and all of that good stuff, just find it, and then you let his penis or what dildo find the way after. Hey, there you go. Just like the stuff they give you in a CAT scan or in an MRI, that the contrast, which makes you feel all warm and like you have to pee, and some actually have done it. Always experiment with different methods by yourself or with your partner on how to get to that, how to hit that G-spot, in stimulating it. Now, there are some lovely ways in which you can try this, of course. You cannot not go on without some ways of performing this and achieving this. Obviously, using sex toys specifically designed to stimulate the G-spot is always a good thing to have, or a good partner in there. Obviously, combining the clitoral stimulation with the G-spot stimulation, which is generally the first thing your partner will go to anyway. So I don't think you need to be taught about that one or told about that one. They usually just go straight for that one because they have their mind set on that is basically how you're just going to get off. But some women can get off without clitoral stimulation. Just saying, not always, but it can be done. Obviously, using lots of lubrication. Lubrication's always good. If you've had children, women, they tell you to bear down on your next contraction. Hell, you're going to do the same here. Bearing down on your pelvic muscles when you are nearing your orgasm. Here comes that control of the pelvic floor, the pelvic muscles, the abdominal muscles, and having control over them and getting them to work for you during orgasm. Again, how do we get that, those strong pelvic muscles? You strengthen them with exercise, vaginal exercises, generally the Kegel exercises, and getting Kegel balls, and all that good stuff like that. Obviously, before getting to this lovely orgasmic feeling, urinate before trying to have a squirting orgasm, because if you think that, you've gotten to that point and you're squirting and this is something you and your partner are just trying to get to and you're exploring and you didn't go to the bathroom, obviously, what are you going to do? You are just going to urinate. And then you'll figure it out after, I think I just urinated. Get the mop with it. And in this particular instance, there is not only the educate, the communicate, and consent, but because you are working so hard to have this squirting orgasm, some people put too much pressure on the G-spot, which can make you feel uncomfortable. Always listen to your body and do what feels good. If you are too tense, it may be harder to orgasm or squirt. So, your mind is basically obviously, train of thought, mind, where you are in your mind when you are doing this, has a lot to do with where the outcome would be with it. So just remember, there are a lot of things that come in with this, and you still need to be, have those precautions in hand, shall I say. So, now, we've gone over the myths and all that other good stuff, the juicy stuff with regards to squirting orgasm. Yes, everybody wants it, you know it. Gotta put my little 2 cents in there, you know that. We want to get our partners off. We want them, to feel good and know that your partner wants to know that they've actually accomplished this, and this is their way of doing so. So, I don't know if it, it's also, there's a kink factor to it as well. The harder, let's get to that G-spot. Oh my God, I finally got my girl to squirt or whatever. Now I know, and bragging rights and everything. Who is to say? But do always remember to listen to your body when doing this, because that always has, it will be the first thing to tell you, you're doing it wrong, or it's uncomfortable, or whatever the case may be. And it's a way of preventing serious injury or unnecessary, infection or whatever. And Lord knows those aren't fun, and that goes on all levels of sex. So remember that as well. Little fun facts here, which I thought you'd find funny. Now, we're always trying to get our partner to, especially the female, to have that multiple orgasm, or have a really long orgasm. Believe it or not, the longest orgasm recorded is from a domestic pig. Believe it or not, where they can orgasm for 30 minutes to 90 minutes at a time. Interesting. So where do women stand with this? Well, they also did that one as well. The longest ever recorded orgasm is 45 seconds for a woman. Obviously, you women will enjoy time to time while they are exercising. An orgasm doesn't always have to require a partner. So, now there are a lot of things we get in there, and that's basically the first thing you think of when you go in and, getting down and dirty with your partner is getting your partner off. Get that big giant orgasm out there. Now, they actually, it's funny because when I guess this was all being studied or trying to find out the longest female orgasm, they also have the world record for female orgasms. And that is a staggering 134 in 1 hour. And this was actually recorded at the Center for Martial and Sexual Studies in California. So, somebody had 134 orgasms. Whoa, okay. Now they found that was for female. Now, come on, guys, you got to catch up, because for the male world record it was 16 orgasms in an hour. Obviously, a lot of I think it's a lot easier for the women than it would be for the man to achieve that many. So, hey, kudos to them. People are saying, I think I'm going to try that. Obviously, we all know what an orgasm is for the most part, but for those of you who do not, I will tell you. Most of the part, you either had the feeling, but you didn't even know or didn't relate the fact that it was actually an orgasm. So, that's one way of looking at it as well. You do actually know what is going on when you are, or when you get to reach your orgasm. So, obviously, when the orgasm is like really caused by that blood rushing back to where it came from, and tense muscles in the genitals relaxing. So they're all different. A lot of people feel different things, but your body is telling you, oh my God, I'm feeling this. Oh, that's a different feeling. And then all of a sudden it's getting to its peak and then it's coming back down. Orgasm. And it's merely the process of the blood rushing back to where it came from. That's it. And all these tense muscles relaxing. It is, when you look at it and you kind of like dummy it down, it kind of makes you just say, wow, how to take the joy out of an orgasm. Hey, it's done. These people are out here and they're figuring this stuff out, to make us better knowledgeable when it comes to sex and all that good stuff. On that note, we are going to take a break. And when we come back, we will continue with lovely Squirting Orgasm and all the good stuff that comes along with it. So, please, go out, do what you gotta do, get a few seconds or so in between shows, or just sit there and just listen to the lovely music selection and commercials. But I will meet you back here for more Sex Talk with Andra.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is coming from the view of an older woman. And our topic of lovely squirting orgasms, which is awesome. And we already know that women can have more than men. And we also know, which I told you, women can have more in an hour than a man can. Don't feel jealous. But it does happen. Obviously, it is what it is. A multiple orgasm. Yeah. And it is possible to have multiple orgasms in one go. One session of sex. One session of mad, hot, passionate lovemaking, if that's what you would like to call it. For a woman, it can be done. It can be one of two things, By this, a multiple can mean like one really long super orgasm or two or three in a row. Generally, most women will have a number of them before they actually hit the big giant orgasm. Because that's just like our body's response to everything. Not to mention, especially if you are doing a lot of foreplay, got a little bit of stop and go action going and all of that good stuff. Women, hey, we're on the top of the game, okay, when it comes to orgasm. Sorry, guys. But women, unlike men, can basically just get right back on top and continue to ride or continue the orgasm that is still there and wasn't fully reached, or have some more without any problems. Man cannot do that. Cannot do that. Again, no jealousy there, guys. It's A-OK. They are capable of having non-ejaculatory orgasms, believe it or not. This is generally when a man experiences an orgasm in his brain, believe it or not, and he retains his erection, but also at the same time he is maintaining an erection, he is inhibiting himself from ejaculating, and this is by squeezing his PC muscles. And generally what that is those muscles that stop you from peeing. There are other techniques in there, but hey, this one's really important. So they can also achieve those multiple erection orgasms if they have to take a little bit of a break there. It might just be where if it is in one setting, it is more like just doing, if he didn't come, just like with a woman, if he didn't come all the way, if he did not ejaculate all the way, so there's a little bit left in there. Or it might just be where he needs to get to that full ejaculation. He's got some hidden back there, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of controlling muscles. But for ease-wise, women can do way better than you. So what makes, sorry. But this is where you get that squirting orgasm, so to say, because women are so able to do this and continue it. We still love you, men. And partners. whatever that partner name may be. Sorry about that. But I have it in here. I'm just a little old school here. This is why it's coming from an older woman. Although not that old, but still. Some things are, you're just automatically brain trained, in a sense. Now, generally after a man ejaculates, what happens? They lose their erection. However, there are those who are in total control of it, which is really good. Now, is there such thing as a vaginal orgasm? This is not a myth. This is actually true. A woman can have a vaginal orgasm. It's just that when you're in sex with, the first place they go to your clitoris stimulation, because that's a good help there. It is possible for a woman to have an orgasm just straight vaginal. So, and it may not be caused by that vaginal stimulation. It might have been caused by something else. But for the most part, the overall consensus is that it originates from the clitoris and it is achieved by penetration. So it's just how it works. And it only happens because the internal, as they call them, legs of the clitoris are being stimulated. Okay? The glands of the clitoris is being pulled by the act of thrusting. So you're really working on those muscles. There are a lot. It can be very much stimulated and intense stimulation done through the front wall of the vagina. It's still not a vaginal orgasm. And the reason why is because of the stimulation. And when you are doing the front wall of it or back wall, it's actually stimulating the female prostate in the area around the urethra. So it's kind of sort of, that's what you're stimulating. That's what's getting your girl off or your partner off. You gotta just kind of sort of get when you go into the doctor's office and you see those posters on the wall of the human body and how it's like all the sections and everything, you might want to put one of those on the wall with the sexual organs there, your genital, both male and female, and kind of, follow it when you're doing sex. It might be fun and such a turn on for you. Who is to say? Try it. Something new. You can get them in a Staples, from my understanding, or in a medical store, wherever. Order them online. Everything nowadays is online. So, obviously, exercise orgasms are real because of the woman's build, whereas all of a woman's nerves, those perineum nerves, which are all from front to back of where they sit in that area on their buttocks, the vagina, clitoris, the labia, all over. There's all these sensitive, lovely muscles there and nerves. Now, a lot of women do. I mean, let's go the lowest on the percentage rate of like 10%. But that's still a lot. Do say that they've achieved an orgasm during exercise. Some people just do it straight. Men recently, in studies and stuff like that, have shown that even stimulating their nipples gets them to that point. But it is more sensitive for a woman because it's just a natural build of how a woman is. Generally, I mean, I don't believe it's that rare, especially with the sexuality of individuals nowadays and how much sex is being looked at and a lot of people know more about it, and more women are coming out and being verbal about their sexuality, and the times are different and everything. So I don't think it's that much of a myth, orgasms. They actually are there. It's been proven, but some people will say that it's not exactly a true one or whatever. I don't know. I know I'm a woman, but you really gotta kind of sort of with that one, kind of sort of go on the outside and be with your partner or with that person you're having sex with or who you're even discussing sex with. And, honing in on those feelings and stuff when you are, trying to get nipple stimulation to have an orgasm. Where unless you are extremely sensitive women, without some sort of penetration, I don't think the squirt is going to come. So, and that wasn't a pun, by the way. But it is, the exercise ones are generally as you're working those perineum, what happens, your mind starts going into fantasy land. So that's what makes the rest of it come out. There's no physical stimulation whatsoever. Simultaneous orgasms. I mean, there are a lot of them out there. Can have them simultaneously. Obviously, a lot of people, couples, would like to aim for that simultaneous orgasm. Both of you are orgasming at the same time. A lot of people say they can do it. And I'm sure it has been done. If you are that much in control of your body and your genitals and everything that's going on, you can actually achieve it. There was a study where they came back that roughly 75% of men in relationships always have an orgasm with their partner, which is very, very nice. That's, come on. And it's really compared to women on an orgasm because they actually base their pleasures from time to time on yours because they're always there trying to please you, to watch you and do that. There are a lot of people, like I said, if you can time them just right, the two of you can have an orgasm at the same time. So in a way, I kind of sort of don't believe what studies are saying with regards to simultaneous orgasms because it can be done, especially if you're with an individual, a partner, that you are both in tune with each other on all levels and especially in the sexual bed. So there's just that way in which you can look at that. Now, what's the average duration of an orgasm? Well, this particular thing was asked of online sex toy retailer Love Honey. They surveyed 1,000 people to get this for you guys. With women, the statistics came back, or the data came back with 10% of women said 0 to 5 seconds. Now, remember, when we are talking about orgasms, if you haven't had sex in a really long time, obviously, you're horny. So, time is going to be really quick. But going back in there and doing it again and then getting on a constant habit of sex, then your body isn't so prone to orgasm that fast. I mean, you could be at home, your partner could be in work or whatever, and you're watching something on TV and you're getting totally aroused by it, that when your partner comes in, boom, and you get sex regularly. Heaven only knows. The next data proved that 40% of the women surveyed say 6 to 10 seconds. 24 was 11.15 seconds. Then we went back down to a little bit of lower numbers, whereas 10% was 16 to 20 seconds. 7% more than 20 seconds. So women take a little longer. Like I said, there's a lot of things that are in there that kind of sort of, put into that and add to why. The why. And then you have the last out of the women, which is a 3%, said they had never had an orgasm. So if they're having one, they probably don't exactly know what it even feels like. So on that note, we are going to take the last break in the show. And when I come back, we will continue on the man's side. But then we're going to talk about, well, how can you tell if they're faking? And still, go on to that squirt, give you a little end notes, and talk about the lovely squirting orgasm. Right now, we're just doing some fun facts for all of you out there. But I will return with more sex talk with Andra after the break.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America's Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Our topic being orgasms, squirting orgasms. Well, alright, so a woman's orgasm. And when we left off in the prior segment, we were talking about how there was a study done, and I was giving you the percentages of women with regards to the duration of their orgasm. Now, the men, just giving you some more fun facts here, and I'm going to get back into the lovely squirting orgasm topic, which this is all part of it, because if you want your partner to squirt, you gotta go through all this. And how long do you want that person to be, orgasming for? Seems to be quite the competition out there. But with men, 23% said 0 to 5 seconds. 50% were 6 to 10 seconds, 18% 11 to 15 seconds. Then there were lower amounts, whereas 5% were 16 to 20 seconds. But if you notice that the lower percentages amounts actually were longer. So you got to look at it kind of sort of that way. It's not the amount. It's like it's very rare that this would happen. Because 3% said 20 seconds and only 1% said they've never had an orgasm. Well, they may not have found that person they wanted to, or it might just be their own personal reasons. Whatever that may be. Now, we're going to continue and finish this out. Now, the next thing that comes up within here is, can you tell if your partner is faking? Now, the majority of people have seen the movie When Harry Meets Sally, and the one portion in that movie that everybody seems to talk about is when Sally is out to dinner with Harry or lunch, whatever it was, and she's literally, it's like kind of sort of the competition as like, could you really tell it if a woman was faking it? So she performs that fake orgasm and just lets you know how well women can do it. So most men can really not fake an orgasm, but they're a little bit more of, they'll just come out and tell you that you didn't do anything for them, or they won't have sex with you. Really depends on the situation. But obviously you don't want somebody who's going to be faking it. Things that you should watch out for to make sure that your partner is moaning for the right thing and the real thing. Look for that sex flush. It's too funny. They call it a sex flush, which is actually, believe it or not, an outwardly a rash on their chest. And that's at the point of orgasm. But it generally comes and goes like really quickly, and you'll miss it if you're not paying attention. So the other way of checking is that, and this is with as a matter of fact, the majority of women, I'm sure there's a few out there that this is not, but this is for a majority of the women, probably 95%. I'll put a small percentage in there myself. And most women, after having an orgasm, are very tender to touch after. If you can touch her clitoris directly afterwards, 10 to 1 she didn't have an orgasm. So, just write that down in your orgasm guide. Now, nothing is, women have just one orgasm for every 3 of a man's. Interesting, huh? This, obviously, I really don't think when it comes to this, men are really bothered by it, to be honestly truthful. It just stems from the point that it is harder for a woman to climax than for a man, believe it or not. Most women have about 1 orgasm for every 3 that a man has because of that fact. And that's really weird because that's a little backwards, kind of, sort of. Some people have problems, or women, personally, have issues with orgasming. And this is generally with either the partner that they're with, or because some medical reason, or because an orgasm, they just can't have an orgasm through just straight vaginal intercourse alone. You need a little bit more stimulation in there. And that's actually a big percentage of the women, which was 80%, believe it or not. And most women don't have problems, orgasm during, believe it or not, masturbation as opposed to with a partner. But hey, who's to say? Who is it? It's the world of the sexual organs, the genitals. They're in their own world down there. So what makes it easier for a woman to go orgasm? I don't know. I don't think it's easy because it just it was kind of hard. And it really depends on the person they're having sex with or the situation that they are with. So that's really weird. But when it comes to having that orgasm, we really are only talking about distance of the clitoris and the vaginal opening. And it's usually, every woman's built differently. So this will actually predict the likelihood of a vaginal orgasm. That little space in between, believe it or not. They do give some measurements, and I know a lot of you are probably going to go out and measure now. But if the distance is less than the width of a thumb, the clitoris is more likely to get stimulated through a pulling sensation activated by thrusting. I'd be a little concerned if there was really, I don't know, if you look at the size of your thumb, they're not exactly saying sideways or the lengthwise ways either. So, I don't know. It's the world of sex and genitals in general is a fascinating thing. And you learn something new about it every day, or every time you have sex, shall we say. So, I don't know. I do not know. Something you learn. Everybody is different. I'm sitting here talking with you about genitals and sex and everything, but you are going to take this and apply it to you and your partner. So that's really how you look at things, or how you should be taking things for the most part, because everybody is different and depends on what you are looking for during sex. I don't know. It's really what it is all about. I mean, a woman can squirt. Well, so can a man for the most part, if you want to look at it that way, but it's kind of probably going to get a little messy in there due to the fact that pee and urine come out the same hole. Urine and semen come out the same hole. Hey, I had an S in there. Just the wrong word. But this is what it is all about, and why we are the way we are. Because we are. We are individual in that way. And just knowing your body. I mean, a lot of people have become much more comfortable with videotaping having sex with their girlfriends or with a partner who is just into it, and posting that on the internet and doing all of these crazy things. What do? You go in there and you think about, oh God, how can I get my partner to do that? Or how can I, try that myself and do it? And you get a lot of people. I mean, you see it out there, the ones that can actually be posted, like on whatever social media or on whatever. And you can tell I'm not a very big person in the social media, but things do come across. But the thing is, you get a lot of people now, you'll still take pictures of like individuals who either stars or star in any form of the word, and recreate their picture, or take somebody else's picture and recreate that in their own little strange way, which is, it's funny. So you're going to go, and if you are with a partner, a long-term partner, or you just met somebody, or it's just you, or whatever the case may be, you want to try something new. You don't want to get stuck into that monotonous. So, kind of sort of take cues from other people, or from porn, or from, I don't know, anything you read on the internet, and you try it. That's how you get where you are and what you want to do and be satisfied. So, with that little bit being said and everything else, here are some things you need to know about squirting, because it does work. Female ejaculation, whatever you want to call it. There are a lot of people out there with questions with it. That is absolutely true. Obviously, we all know what squirting is because I just told you. But I'll say it again. It is that expulsion of fluid from folks with a vagina. And this is during sex. So, all good. So, what does it feel like? Obviously, that is the same as asking, what does an orgasm feel like? You can't explain that to someone because it is different from everybody else. Everybody is different, and it, according to what studies and stuff, it doesn't feel like that anyway, according to the population that represented those that did not participate as a whole. A lot of people explain it as that it's intense, like an extreme release. And it's usually, if someone is, continually touching your G-spot, some people will just squirt, women. So, a lot of people talk about it. And it's a lot of, there's another one that explains it as pressure on your urethra. The need to pee right before you squirt. Actually think about it, it is exactly that anyway. But hey. So, and believe it or not, there's one transgender male, sorry. I'm stumbling on the words. Right? Explained that squirting feels to him what he imagined jizzing would feel like if I had a penis. And that is very colorful and very probably straightforward. Can everyone do it? No. It isn't. It's only people, only females with our lovely vulvas, sexual genitals, vagina, whatever you want to call it. A lot of people have conflicting with that. I'm assured most people, because you're human and curiosity gets the best of all human beings, you want to know, okay, how did they do that? And you probably will either masturbate or talk to you're watching the same thing with your partner who's sitting next to you and you just want to try it. Hey, it usually comes down to either the G-spot stimulation or the G-spot stimulation combined with the clitoral stimulation in order to get that your partner with a vagina to squirt. You might want to, before you even do it, because it does get a little messy, I'm assured, prep your area when you're going to have sex or whatever. Have a towel down there so it makes clean up a little better. A waterproof throw, whatever, something you don't mind putting in the wash and just cleaning it. Another way to avoid all of that is just doing it in the bathtub with no water in there, and then go on to maybe continue into the bathtub having more sex in there. It is this way. In the tub, you don't have to worry. You can just rinse it down with water, clean it out with Comet, whatever. It's really easy. How much fluid gets expelled varies from person to person. We all know that. But there are some females who can release a teaspoon amount. There are others that can do a gush, a super soaker, whatever you want to call it. You have to set your mind. And when you set your mind, or set the mood, shall I say, it puts it even more into perspective in more of you're really going to get this person to squirt. So get your whole area, the the place around you when you're getting ready to have sex and you want to have that explosive squirting orgasm, just like with regular sex, or if you want to call it love me, whatever. Set the mood. Prepare, because this one's a little messier. But squirting, people, want to do that, and they can do it. Good position is doggy style, because it provides a perfect angle to reach the front of the vaginal wall, whereas the G-spot is there. You could use the dildo or the penis, same thing. And you're obviously positioned on your knees, and you're coming from behind, so you stroke it shallowly, and it would be working. You're widening the knees and dropping to the forearms to alternate the angles and everything, but it's there. Missionary position, it works there. A lot of toy play in there, lube, get you in there. But remember, relax. Don't think so much. Explore your erogenous zones. Rub the nub, the little clitoris, which is your friend and everybody else's. Locate your G-spot. What the heck gets you off? Practice, practice, practice. Keep going. Do everything. And you want to pleasure your partner, so don't put a lot of pressure on them to squirt, because it might just backfire on you. On that note, we are at the end of the show today. As always, practice safe sex, if not for yourself, for your partner, and vice versa. Also, if you are going to try something new, and if you're going to try this, if you don't know how to do it, or you don't do it and you want to see how to experience it, please educate, communicate, and consent with everything. If you're doing it by your partner, with a partner, consent is a big thing. If you're doing it by yourself, well, I don't think you need consent for yourself. So, on that note, thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, which is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I do ask that you hit that little subscribe button down there and write a very good review. 5 stars, please. And that only helps me. It does help the GSMC Podcast Network to know that they are bringing you the content you want to hear. Also, please seek us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And when you get there, hit that little thumbs up. Or that, give us some love by tapping on that little heart. But do give us a good, give us a comment and let us know what you want to hear. So, again, I thank you for tuning in, and have awesome sex anytime and whenever you can and want. And until next time, I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Bye-bye until next time.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast.